Millennials and Gen Zers just can't catch a break. Unlike our baby boomer counterparts who prospered in the golden age of America after World War II, who even had an opportunity to buy a home on a single income, we haven't had it so lucky. In fact, after an all too expensive college education, millennials graduated into the jobless great financial crisis. And just as we were starting to pick up the pieces, and just as Gen Zers are entering the workforce, we walked into the unlimited money printing of the 2020s that has led to our current inflationary crisis as well as a hyper-competitive real estate market. So I guess that begs the question, will we ever own a home? Well, the fact is, if you want to buy a home, you better get in line because there is currently a shortage of 5.5 million available homes in the United States. In fact, the National Realtor Association estimates that if home builders aggressively built for the next 10 years, we would just be able to catch up to this shortage. Now, let's assume you got lucky, you found a home, you made an offer, and it gets accepted. Well, you better have the bucks to pay for it because interest rates have now doubled to over 7% for a 30-year fix, meaning the amount of interest you pay on a home today over the course of the loan is 2x what you would have paid just a year ago. Yikes. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. And for those of you who are new, my name's John of John's Finance Tips on TikTok as well as on Instagram. So, is it all doom and gloom when it comes to buying a home for millennials and Gen Zers? Yes and no. So in today's video, we're gonna discuss why it's becoming harder and harder for us to buy homes. But be sure to stick around because as a millennial who's managed to buy multiple properties during this period, I'm gonna give you my tips and tricks as to how you can find a property. And not only that, you're not gonna have to sacrifice an arm and a leg and your firstborn to do so. Though I guess the only thing I would ask for you to sacrifice is just a quick little tap, that little thumb icon down there to help spread the good word of this video. So the 3 reasons we'll cover for why you won't own a home are 1, tight supply, 2, competitive market, and 3, affordability. So, tight supply. As the name would suggest, there are just not enough homes to go around. And that's not an issue as of this year or last year or the year before. This is actually an issue that comes from the last financial crisis. See, during that last crisis, builders got really confident and they were building and building and people were buying and buying and they were overbuilding and people were still buying, and then all of a sudden, that whole thing blew up in their faces. Suddenly, all the demand dried up and they had so many houses that they had oversupplied the market with, and so many builders went out of business. And so, as a lesson, if you want to call it that, from the last financial crisis, builders were more reluctant to overbuild and aggressively build in anticipation of the demand. Instead, they built to demand or a little bit under what was demanded so they could ensure that whatever they build would always get sold. The issue, though, is the fact that it takes a certain amount of time from building something to when it hits the marketplace. And when you're constantly under supply and there's a huge demand push, it's very difficult to meet that demand. Now, is it entirely a bad thing? No, but coming out of the last financial crisis, that oversupply was quickly eaten up, but yet builders have still been pretty reluctant to oversupply or really try to anticipate what the demand is. Again, you can't really blame them because who could have seen this come out of the 2020 crash? But yet, here we are. There's a shortage of 5.5 million available homes, and honestly, there is really no end in sight for the amount of undersupply in the marketplace. 2, competition. Everybody seems to be wanting a home. So the biggest thing the last 2 years has taught me, and probably a lot of people, is we like our space. Being cooped up in a studio in a 1-bedroom close to downtown because it was convenient for work was nice when we had to go into an office. Suddenly though, work from home, work remote. I like my space. Yeah, you probably did as well. And so people started looking to get out to areas where there was space, and logically that would be away from cities and into suburbs. And as you can see, we had 82% more people were leaving urban centers. And where were they going? The suburbs. More and more people were going to the suburbs, looking for that yard, looking for that 2 or 3 bedrooms, just more space. I myself ended up getting a 3-bedroom, and so that I was able to now have an office in addition to a bedroom, right? Because a lot of people were thinking, well, maybe this is the new way of the future, and so having a dedicated home office was a lot more convenient than having a small little cramped studio 1-bedroom close to where you work in a city. And digging a little bit deeper, it was a lot of people from places where they were earning a lot of money money. Places like San Francisco, places like New York, going to places like maybe Texas or Florida. And because of their high earning potential, they were then driving up prices and demand for those homes. The next source of competition we had was yet again with our counterparts, the baby boomers. Baby boomers around this period and during this time now are looking to downsize. Many of them are empty nesters. They've had their 4 or 5 bedroom homes and now they want to get something a little bit more manageable, right? And so if we look at transactions over the past 2 years, 28% of those transactions could be characterized as downsizing. The challenge though is when baby boomers move down market, they are competing directly with millennials and Gen Zs who are looking for that starter home, the 2 or 3 bedrooms that they're gonna start their families in and eventually grow out of. However, they need to start somewhere. But baby boomers were coming down market, getting something smaller, more manageable. But the challenge and the difficulty, I would say, is that baby boomers are coming after having sold their home, after having equity, after having so many years of working. They have so much more dry powder to throw at a starter home than someone who is truly just looking for a starter home. And so again, that drove up competition at that base level. And of course, how could I forget? Big money. Institutional investors saw the opportunity in single-family homes. Sadly as it is, I think the trend line is showing that America is now becoming more and more a nation of renters. In fact, that is the reality in Europe, so I guess it's not that crazy of a future. And so institutions kind of seeing that, they're moving into the space. So Blackstone Group acquired a huge swath of property at $6 billion. In addition to that, Blackstone is preparing a $50 billion investment vehicle to acquire single-family homes on a bargain, which is crazy if you think about it. That if you go into some of these developments and you're looking to buy a home for your family to live in or for you or whoever, you're competing against $50 billion of institutional sophisticated investing. That's pretty crazy. Now, some would say, well, technically that $50 billion is dedicated to rent to own, yada, yada. Sure, that's nice that that's what they say, but do I really want to go into a situation where even though I want to buy, I'm forced to rent with the hope that they allow me to buy at the end of it? Because I would definitely argue that's definitely not advantageous for the homeowner as it is for the institution. Next up, we have the issue of affordability. It is just darn expensive. Today, the median home of a price sold is about $423,000 or so. And the median income in the United States is around $70,000 or so. So that represents about a 6x difference. Whereas if you compare it to the 1950s, the median home price sold was a whopping $7,354. The median income at the time was about $3,300 annually, which means that would represent a difference of about only 2.2x. So you can see here, relatively, it is just more expensive to purchase a home today than when our baby boomer counterparts had the privilege to in the 50s and 60s. And it's not just that the home price itself is more expensive. If we just compare to 1 year ago, the interest rate has about doubled, which means it is so much more expensive to actually service that debt. So if we look at the example of a $423,000 median sale price, we put 20% down on that, we would need a loan for $338,000. So if we look at a $338,000 loan over the course of 30 years at a 3.1% interest, which is roughly what it was about a year ago, we would pay around about $180,000 in total interest to the bank. If, however, we did the same calculation with a 7.1% interest rate, we would be paying the bank close to $488,000 in total interest over 30 years. Folks, that's $300,000 of additional interest we would have to pay just by way of interest rates going up. Not even the prices going up, which they have, but just by way of interest rates. That's absolutely insane. It really is pricing people out of homes that they otherwise would have been able to afford or even be able to afford, period. Now, even though I covered all the reasons why I think it's getting almost near impossible to buy a home, I don't think all hope is lost. Here's 3 reasons why. You could A, house hack, 2, try to leverage an FHA type of loan, and of course the third and most important thing is start early and start building that credit. So the first thing you could try to do is house hacking. House hacking is basically this concept where you're looking to purchase a home, and once you purchase a home, you either bring in roommates, or if you manage to buy a multifamily home, let's say a duplex or triplex, you rent out the other units. Those other units or those roommates help cover a substantial amount, if not all, of the mortgage, and so therefore you're essentially living for free and somebody is buying you a house. Disclaimer for this one is you gotta be able to put up with some short-term pain, meaning Short-term, you either have roommates, or short-term, you're living closely in proximity to your tenants, right, as a landlord. But a house hack is one of the most efficient ways to get into a property early so that A, you're starting to build equity, and that you can later take that equity and roll it into purchasing power to buy your forever home. My recommendation and guidance is, if you're in an area of the country where you can do a multi-family house hack, that is the ideal situation because you're gonna be able to generate more rental yield. So we're looking at 2-family, 3-family, 4-family if you can manage it, though I would say in today's current environment, 4-family is difficult just from a loan servicing perspective and a debt to income ratio. So you're probably looking at 2 to 3 families. You live in one unit, you rent out the other 2. And that's actually exactly what I did for my very first rental property. It was a house hack. I purchased a 2-family, I lived in one unit, I rented out the others. They covered the majority of my mortgage as well as my servicing costs, and I was paying maybe like $200 out of pocket to live per month, which is incredible. In 1 year, that property appreciated $152,000, meaning suddenly I had all this equity built up in the property. I did a refinance, I was able to drop mortgage insurance. And so again, that's just an example of how you can get started. And that leads into my second point, using an FHA loan to buy a property. That property I bought with an FHA loan. And for those of you who don't know what an FHA loan is, it's a loan that is insured by the federal government. And what is so great about an FHA loan is you can put a low down payment on a multi-family property. In fact, you can go as low as 3.5% down. So a lot of people think when you buy a house, you need to come up with 20%. That's not exactly it. Some people are like, oh, maybe you could do 10%. That's low enough. But with an FHA loan, you can do 3.5% down on a multi-family home. Now you can get 3% down on a single family, but it's not optimized for the house hacking strategy I mentioned earlier. So 3.5% down on an FHA loan. A lot of you are probably wondering, well, wait a minute, doesn't it come with permanent mortgage insurance? Yes, it does. However, once you have 20% equity built up in the property, actually you could just refinance it a year later into a conventional loan product. And even if you have mortgage insurance, that mortgage insurance will fall off by nature of it being tied to a conventional loan as opposed to an FHA loan. But what I really need you to internalize here with me is the fact that it's a low down payment available on a multi-family property. 2-family, 3-family, 4-family, which is unheard of in the industry for a loan product that's not for single family homes. Now, a couple things to know about the FHA loan. Probably the most important is to know that it has to be owner occupied for 12 months. But once you're owner occupied and you've lived in there for 12 months, you know, things come up, whatever, you move away, you move out, suddenly, there you go. You have an investment property that's giving you cash flow, you're building out equity that you can then use to try to buy your next home, whatever that may be. And what's really great about this strategy is you're not buying an investment property with an investment loan, you're buying a primary residence with an owner-occupied loan, meaning you get much more favorable loan terms in terms of interest, as well as having that low down payment option. So you're probably getting jazzed up about an FHA loan. The one thing I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be hard. It is not going to be a cakewalk. Sellers just don't like FHA loans because they think for whatever reason, the buyer of an FHA loan tends to be in a lesser financial situation, which I guess the loan was intended to help kind of folks in those situations, but for the most part, it doesn't matter, and that's not what holds true about the loan. I will say this, I spoke to 10 lenders before I found one that did FHA loans. I spoke to multiple real estate agents where I said, this is my strategy, this is what I wanna do, I wanna use an FHA, where I was finally recommended one, my current agent, Taylor, by a buddy of mine, Avery. Actually, he's also a content creator here on YouTube, as well as TikTok and Instagram, where they understood the strategy of you use FHA, low down payment, house hack, buy your first property, that gets your foot in the door so that you can then buy subsequent properties or your forever home, whatever that may be. But you will have to ask and you will have to be diligent about it. But I'm here to tell you right now, it is not impossible. Lenders will tell you it's impossible. Sellers will tell you it's impossible. Some agents will tell you it's impossible. But as someone who's in the Boston market, seen many competitive deals being won on an FHA loan, it is 100% possible. And the third thing you can do is if you're watching this video, maybe you're early in your real estate buying journey. Maybe you're thinking, hey, at some point I want to buy a home. What's this video about never being able to buy a home? Well, if you are early, the most important thing you can do is if you're not quite ready yet, making sure that you're building a strong credit profile, right? A lot of people I've seen graduate college, have never had a credit card, have difficulty getting even a rental property because they don't have a credit score. The most important thing you can do if you're not quite yet ready there is making sure that, hey, you're gonna get that tier A credit, because right now interest rates are just wrong. They truly are. But at some point they'll start coming down, and you want to be in the bucket typically around 740 or 760 and above so that you get the best interest rates. You don't need an 850, you don't need a perfect credit score. You just need to be in what's considered tier A to get the best interest rates. And one of the easiest ways is to just open up, get a beginner credit card, use it responsibly, right? Pay on time and in full. If you've been on my channel, you kind of know the whole spiel, but build that strong credit profile so when it's time to get going, you're not qualified out because, hey, the interest rate is too high and you can't afford the monthly payment. Cool, folks. Well, hey, listen, I appreciate all of you for tuning in on this video. It's been a great video, and hopefully this has been informative. If you have any questions on buying your first rental property or anything related to real estate, feel free to drop a comment in the section down below, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace!